My name's Steve Pimpo. I'm principal with Greenhouse Consulting. We're a small business here in the Washington, D.C. area, and we help small to medium-sized companies grow or get ready to sell. And today I have the privilege of introducing you to Liz daRosa, who's the president of daRosa Consulting. And Liz is going to talk to us about branding and how you can use branding to attract new opportunities. So Liz, take it away.
Thank you so much, Steve. So last time we were together, and hopefully some of you did join me in May, we went through LinkedIn and I took you through my LinkedIn profile, and we really did a deep dive in there to see how you could, maximize your presence on LinkedIn. And so what I wanted to do this time was take a more global view. That was really, really specific. So I want to take a more global view and talk about branding, because the branding piece is really important, because that's going to help people in talent acquisition, right? Because getting out that message and branding the organization that you're with, or the team or the product or the service, that's going to be really essential to identify and attract those really highly qualified candidates for positions, for RFPs, especially when you're looking for folks who have clearances and are really those unicorns, right? And then also all of us are interested in branding because we all need to look for potential clients, right? So we're always in that business development mode. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So it's really applicable to a wide variety of people. And of course, as soon as you press play, yes.
There we go.
So yes, and so absolutely welcome. And I hope some of you did come back from May. I know I made a lot of really great connections, and I hope you all do connect with me. I am on LinkedIn and all the other major platforms, pretty much as Liz daRosa, so you'd be able to find me. All right, so have you ever felt this way? And you'd be lying if you said no to any of these questions, right? Are you frustrated with any of your lackluster business development efforts? It happens to all of us. We go like this, right? It's a roller coaster sometimes with business development, feast or famine, okay? Are you in human resources and you're tasked with filling the candidates for this really hard to fill RFP, and are you dissatisfied with the lack of qualified candidates? I work with companies and I help them fill, what they need for candidates. Sometimes it's hard to attract, especially if I'm working with an organization that doesn't have a presence on social media. They've got a great website, but you can't just put a website out there and say, that's it. Okay. And then the other one is, and I'm sure we can all say yes to this, sometimes do you feel like you're missing out on some great opportunity? Sure, there's always going to be something out there. We can't be everywhere, right? But what we can do is we can make sure that our branding is out there, and we're putting it out there and consistent and following these strategies that I'm talking about. So that's going to help you maximize, being out there, and for primes to come to you with opportunities, top talent to come to you, or, prospective clients coming to you instead of you having to go to them. All right, so I know that we have all had to pivot and embrace this new normal, okay? So, maybe you've got a new website. I put a new website out there, right? Sometimes you've got to create this work from home office, right? And we've all had to figure out how to make this work. And some of you are in states that are currently in lockdown, and some of you are, going back to the office, and that's great. But what we have noticed is that we really need to leverage our online presence, right? And VFedCon is definitely an example of that, and the ability to bring us all together. All right, so attraction is about what this presentation is about. So I'm going through this, and if you remember from high school, an acrostic, it's a word that you use and you add 3 words that start with that letter, okay? And so that's what I'm going to do, and that's how I'm going to take you through this. So A, active, authority, and attention, okay? You need to be active. And you have to have a sense of humor. And that's one of the things, if you've attended any of Dave's panels or presentations, is that he has a great sense of humor. A lot of us that are on this VFedCon, Steve, have a great sense of humor. You've got to be able to laugh, right?
Absolutely.
Through it all. I'm on the major platforms. And so I'm on Pinterest, for example. And so I'll just fill the time for a second. And so am I going after anybody that may be on Pinterest? Who knows? Right? It could be somebody who is going to be a great talent for a job that I'm going to be filling in a couple weeks, and they've noticed something that I've posted, right? And it doesn't have to be exactly what I'm doing, but I post things with the authority piece to correlate with the A that we're at. I post when I'm on podcasts, and this has been so great to be on podcasts since we've been in this new normal. I've probably been on about a dozen of them. And so that is a wonderful thing to be able to get your message out there and show that you are the authority in whatever your product or service is. So those of you that posted that you joined this session, yay, I'm glad you did. I did too. I took a screenshot of the laptop and I posted ready, set, go. And and I'm constantly putting things out there. And so great that you're putting things out there, because that's part of it, right? You're putting out there, you're active. And don't worry about what the message is when you just start, right? Just start putting things out there, start engaging, start liking. Liking is safe, right? You don't even have to make a comment. You're out there, you're active. But that authority piece, let's say today, after you're done with this or after you're done with this session, take a selfie, take a picture of the program agenda and say, hey, I attended this really great conference. That is going to then associate you with the conference or with the speaker, right? And that's going to have people say, oh, okay, well, I didn't know you were in the GovCon space. I didn't know you did federal contracting. I didn't know you did this, do that. You need to remind people, right, that you're the authority in whatever you're the authority on, right? And you want to bring attention, and it's not personal attention. I know some folks who are saying, what is social media, or I rarely post, and they say, I don't want to put the attention on myself. I get it. Not everybody's a selfie person, for sure. But you have to look at how are you going to sustain your business? How are you going to grow your business, right? And whether it's your own business or you work for someone, that is still the organizational culture that you're a part of, and you want it to be successful, right? So you should look for ways to bring positive attention, right, to the company and to the team that you're a part of. All right, so here's some examples of how I brought attention, right, and authority, and show that I have authority, right? This shows I was just on a podcast, okay? And I even sort of made fun of myself, okay? Because when I listened to the podcast, I cringed a little, right? I am definitely not a speech coach, but when I listened to it, there were some ums and so's, right? Which sometimes when we are answering questions that we're not completely prepared for, right? We do that. We do that as to fill time. So I cringed a little bit, but I said, you know what? No, I was on a podcast, right? Again, that's something that shows authority, and you have to put that out there. And we are just human, right? And I'm not a speech coach. If I was, I probably wouldn't have shared it. Okay. So it's definitely, you have to make sure that you're not being overly critical of yourself. Okay. And then the other one is, just grateful for how many connections I have. And I'm actually approaching 15,000. So that's really exciting. But again, doesn't even have to include your picture. Okay. You could just say, I'm grateful for having 5,000 connections, or however many connections that you have, right? It's just putting that out there saying, oh, well, I didn't realize Steve now has 7,500 connections, right? And so that gives an awareness that you're an authority, that you're growing in that area. And then people go, oh, I wonder what he or she is posting about. Okay. So team, territory, and timely, right? It is really easy to post about other people, right? With the team. Well, I am my team. And so that's why you see a lot of pictures, right? That are going to be selfies of me. And your territory, your area, right? And talking about that. And obviously things that are timely, but you definitely want to make sure, right? And so I'm talking to my audience right now. Okay. And so are your branding efforts wilting or in full bloom? And so hopefully, right, this would speak to somebody who is in the government contracting space. Okay. They would not only see the message, but they see the picture, right? They'd see the image and they said, oh, I recognize that, right? And they feel like there's the connection to them. Okay. And I'm also putting my website on there. You'll notice all of these graphics, they've got something in there. They've got a platform that I'm on that is going to say, hey, did you know I'm on Pinterest, without me saying, connect with me on Pinterest, or here's my new website, right? And that's something that you can do to brand it. You don't need to necessarily always put your logo, as I did on the PowerPoint, right? Sometimes people think that, oh my gosh, if I don't have my logo and if I don't have a specific font and a specific hex code, you don't need to have that with everything that you post, right? Obviously, if it's not your company and that's what the company wants, right, then you have to follow that. But if you have latitude, if it's your own company, go with what feels good for you, right? With whatever the message you're sharing. Because the bottom line is, when you're attracting folks, unless your business is graphic design, right, you do have the latitude to be creative. But make sure that you definitely are speaking to your audience. Okay, our next T, teaser, time, and tips. Okay, and so teasers are great. They're a great way of saying, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's next, right? So if you're going somewhere, right, you're doing a presentation somewhere, you're going to go meet a client, right? Give a teaser about that. And don't worry if you make a mistake. Sometimes people are watching and sometimes they're not watching, right? And sometimes people are just liking things. And so it's more about getting comfortable with what you're sharing and putting out your branding message. And so this one, for example, to hashtag or not to hashtag, that is the question, right? And again, it kind of makes you smile because you think, oh, well, high school English class, right? But it's about what I'm an authority on, right? It's on social media. And so again, I've got my, Instagram handle there, which is okay, connect with me there without saying that, right? And so grab attention with a nice graphic and then share some tips. And so in this particular post I shared several tips on the benefits of using hashtags. Okay. And I think sometimes people think that hashtags are just for Twitter or for Facebook. They are important on LinkedIn as well, which is probably where most of you are, even if you said, what is social media, right? That's 7%. And so it's really important to, in that search bar in LinkedIn, to put in the actual hashtag and put in a word and see how many people are following it. Right? A lot of the things when I'm trying to attract either talent or prospective clients in government contracting, right, are hashtag GovCon, hashtag government contracting, hashtag federal contracting, and then obviously little segments, right? It depends on if it's a cyber firm or it's an IT firm, right? Or if you're trying to get WOSB, right? All of these things in there. And so you definitely want to look at the ones where you're trying to attract, where you're putting out your branding and what makes the most sense for you. But I definitely suggest using, anywhere from 3 to 5 in a post. Okay, so that's definitely important. And it's also important to go into those hashtags when you make a post and like other people's posts in those hashtags, because then they're likely to go look at what you posted that day and like, or potentially share, or there could be a connection there for them as well.
And Liz, just on that note, isn't there something like a social scoring that you get from LinkedIn, your profile, based on how many likes and how many responses you have? So it actually enhances your presence on LinkedIn as you like and share things, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what you do is you're able to go in your and find out what percentage, how high your percentage is based on what your industry is. And so if you put in your industry as government services, then they will compare you to other people in government services and so forth. So it's definitely a comparison of what your profile's doing based on all the other profiles that have that same designation. So yeah, and again, that's something that you can screenshot and then share and say, look, I'm 85%, based on, all of my peers in LinkedIn,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And really any score you have as you start is great because again, you're building, right? You're building it up there. And so the next one we have is R, recognition, respond, and sometimes you quite honestly need to revive some things, right? And maybe it's not something that has failed. Maybe it's something that you just haven't put a lot of effort into. Maybe you've got a great product or a great service that you just haven't talked about very much. And so you need to revive it. It needs that, that extra little, breath of fresh air in there that social media can give. Okay, and so that's definitely in this area. And so this one, for example, and obviously the American flag is great for any industry, but especially in government contracting, right? You make an impact with a visual, right? And then pair it with a powerful quote. And this one is one that I put up on the 4th of July. And so obviously it has even more impact. So I know a lot of people say, oh my gosh, like I can't come up with a quote. I don't have any great pictures. I totally get it. These are actually pictures, and I post a lot of pictures of a local Annapolis man who is not a photographer, but he takes incredible pictures and he doesn't mind if people use them. And so I just make sure when I post it that I give him an attribution. Okay. But use quotes that speak to you. You don't have to come up with your own, for sure. And then again, I've got my website on there. So, use things that are going to make a powerful impact, because somebody's going to stop and go, oh, that's a great flag, or the water, or something about that, right? And so you definitely want images that are going to attract attention. And then of course, this is very, timely because it was the 4th of July.
Liz, would you recommend doing that on something like LinkedIn, or would this be more of an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter type post?
Sure. Well, this was actually one that I did post on LinkedIn. Most of the things I create, I put on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, this, it makes a great Instagram one, Pinterest, right? I mean, and the more beautiful that image is, the better it is for Instagram and Pinterest, right? Because people see more of that image.
Right.
And so, I do try to on LinkedIn have the smaller graphic size, just because, when people are scrolling on their devices, it's easier for them to see the whole thing.
Sure.
But if I've got a great image like this, I will put up an Instagram sized one, just to, because it is, I don't want to cut off the flag, right? So really, and I know people have different, philosophies about it. I know I've seen a lot of kind of Facebook light posting on LinkedIn, well, people posting about their children and their dogs and things like that. And that's absolutely to your comfort level, right? We are definitely in a new normal. Nobody is to say that that's a good or bad thing. It's what people need to do, and that's fine. But definitely, if you don't work for yourself, I definitely clear it through, right, your HR, and make sure that if you're posting on a company page, right, then you're definitely following, the rules. And even if you're posting on your own, you definitely want to make sure, if you're tagging the company, right, we want to make sure that we're following the organization's guidelines for, proper use. Our next one, address, align, and answer. And so we can definitely align, right, our mission, vision, goals, values, all of that when we're making our posts. We can address questions, and you can even think of it sort of as an FAQ, right? The FAQ that you may have on your website, those are things that you can use to post on social media, right? And again, social media is not just on LinkedIn. I know, there's plenty of government contractors that are out there that have a Facebook business page, and that's fine, right? Maybe that you spend a lot of time on Facebook personally, right? And that is just a natural extension for you to just post on a business page. So there is no right or wrong. Again, it depends on what your niche market is. Okay. And so this one is an example of, you can even address things that are universally felt by posting affirmations, inspiration, and motivation. People love that. They love to know that, look, she's asking me a question. And then it makes you smile because you go, I am confident. right? It makes you smile and like, well, what am I confident in? And then you can think of like 5 things. And then that makes them feel better, right? And then there's a connection, right? And there are people that reach out to me and say, thanks for posting positivity. Well, that's not what I get paid to do, right? But I do it because it does draw attention to, it does make people feel good. And that's absolutely a benefit, right? But that's part of my branding strategy, is to put out positive messages because I want people who are positive to be attracted to me, right? And to look into my company and share that Liz is positive, right? And it doesn't hurt to put out the positivity in the world, for sure. So again, if you're looking for things to post, these are great. Affirmations, inspiration, and motivation. And those things are already created. You just do a simple Google search. All right, so we're at communication, consistent, and content. So anytime you post anything, right, it's that communication piece. Whether you're posting a meme, whether you're posting the link to the website, that's still communication, right? And so it's really important that you're making sure that you're focusing on the message you want to send, right? That's the content piece. So what I do is I sit down and I put together a week-long calendar, right? And put down, okay, what do I want? What do I want to get across this week? Am I working with a client and we're trying to, you know, get sourcing right now for some talent in this particular area? Am I working with a client and we're doing this? What are we doing? Right? And so what is my purpose? And so my purpose is going to inform what my content is going to be. Right? And so whether I'm posting content for a client or for myself, maybe for business development, I have to make sure that my message is consistent. Okay. Every once in a while, life gets in the way and I don't post something. And I have people that will message me and say, oh my gosh, is everything okay? You didn't post anything. Right? And that makes me feel good. Okay. It makes me feel bad because I didn't post, right? But that somebody noticed that I didn't post because I am consistent. And consistent does not mean every day at all. Maybe consistent for you is, you're going to share a Monday morning message. That's great. Or maybe you're going to share a midweek message on Wednesdays, or a thankful Thursday message, whatever it is, whatever that branding piece is, that's really connected to who you are and what you provide. That's what you need to figure out. And if it's on Mondays, make sure that you've got some great content for Mondays. If you want to do it, 5 days a week, my suggestion is you start with 1 or 2 and then build yourself up and then become consistent with it, right? You definitely don't want to get overwhelmed. This should be something that is, not a drudge to do. It should be something that brings you joy and brings you business, right? Brings you business, brings you leads. Okay, so this one is my most viral post. It was actually on Twitter, and so it was very simple. And the graphic, I honestly didn't think was that great. Okay, and so it's a Lucille Ball quote, and it says, "I don't know anything about luck. I focus on hard work and realizing what is opportunity, and what isn't." I was like, well, that's okay. So what I posted was, "Do you believe in luck or hard work?" Well, that spoke to people. And I included 2 hashtags, right? Inspiration and inspire. And I've had 192 retweets. 22 people quote tweeted it, which means they retweeted it and then added their own response, and then 288 likes. Okay. And so, I've reached it, about 100,000 people, right, with this particular quote. And so what you do is you connect with them with a question, and it doesn't have to be anything incredibly deep. This is just, do you believe in luck or hard work? Okay, and for some reason this resonated with people, right? But then what you need to do with like the hook is, then you need to engage and convert, right? Like once you get something like this, is okay, now you need to go through and connect back with these folks and figure out, is there a partnership, is there a way that you can do some business development with them? Could they be a client? Could they be a candidate? What could be the connection? And sometimes there isn't one, and that's okay, right? With most people, as we know, most people are not going to buy from us, right? Most people are not going to be that top candidate that we're looking for, but you never know what's going to come down the road in 6 months. Okay, so it's really important that when you put things out there and you're engaging with people, don't worry about if you don't convert with them right away. All right, and so the last one, thought-provoking technique and tweak. Tweak is a big one. Just make adjustments. I've tried to repeat that viral tweet, and I've even reposted that tweet, and I still haven't been able to get that. It, like at that moment it hit. And sometimes things are like that. And I could tweak it. I've tweaked it and put it on a different type of graphic, and it doesn't get anything. Something about that particular moment with those hashtags, people were looking at it and it got a lot of traction. Okay. This one, is an example of using a little bit of a different technique, right? So step outside literally, right? And this came from my garden, and to get some inspiration. Okay. And then you'll notice I also have, kind of a low key promotion of another platform, because again, sometimes you post on LinkedIn, you're going to see people who maybe they've got a side business doing something else and they're posting a lot on Pinterest, right? You don't know. But, this is just another way to connect with people, right? In a world of roses, be a sunflower, be yourself, be unique. And that's really what the branding piece is. No, if somebody tells you how to do branding, right? Again, unless it's your employer, um, just embrace that branding piece for yourself. There's no wrong way to do it. It's however it feels right to you, and that's the message you want to get out. That's the important piece. So what's next, right? It's a lot of information that we talked about, and this one is, if you fall, I'll catch you. And the floor says that, right? But also I'm saying that. And so if you're unsure where to start, just like the last time, in May, reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Liz daRosa. Happy to chat with everybody. So glad to be part of, this event. And, I'd love to see everybody try to work on their branding piece. Start something. If you're somewhere, try to go to that next level, and see what happens. But don't be afraid to, if you do fall, just dust yourself off and, try something else.
Is that it?
That's it.
Very good, Liz. Thanks so much.
Sure.
I want to open it up to the audience here to see if anybody has a question for Liz. If you want to, you could put something in the chat and I could read it off, or you could raise your hand. A lot of good information here. I know that when Liz gave her talk at the last VFedCon, I was the moderator, but I was also listening intently to a lot of your advice on LinkedIn, which I thought was very practical and helpful to any of us that are in the business phase. So from Tammy, can we obtain copies of the slideshow?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And how can she do that?
Sure. Well, if you send me an email to info@lizdarosa.com, I will gladly send it to you.
All righty. Great. Thanks, Tammy. Anyone else? How do I revitalize a stale product? This is coming from Fred.
Okay. And so, yeah, that's definitely right. That reviving piece. And so, if do you have some new team members maybe you can talk about, right? People love to connect with people, which is why, I suggest, putting out pictures of people, whether it's a selfie of you or other people. They want to connect with people, right? Because people, that's the brand. Okay. And so, I would suggest is, look at ways that you've improved, whatever that product is. Do you have new people on board that are helping to revive it? What have you done internally in there? And then just start communicating that out. And whether you can share that in pictures kind of as it has been improved, or just admit, what? It just wasn't where we hoped it would be. And so we've been spending the last 6 months tweaking it, right? I mean, all of us have really been spending time since March figuring out how we can maximize what we're doing in this virtual, platform. So, there everybody right now is kind of in flux, right? And figuring out, how can they improve what they have. And so I would say, if you've got new people on the team, talk about that. Just talk about, what you hope the product was going to do X, it didn't. And so we've been improving it, and we're there, right? And talk about, maybe talk about that journey and be honest. I mean, maybe, not as brutally honest as you would be internally to your team, but people like that. People like the raw honesty of saying, you know what, Steve, it didn't work. It didn't work. Maybe 70% of it worked, or 20%, and we had to go back, and that's okay. Because we are human, and people do like to see that human side of us.
Well, and that
It
goes
does.
along, Liz, that goes along with something you said earlier on your slide about, transparency and vulnerability, right? And nobody likes a know-it-all. And I think most people are going to be able to give grace to somebody that kind of slips and falls or messes up, whether it's, hey, we had a problem with this product on the first release, or it didn't work as well as we wanted it to. We're making improvements, and give us
Right.
another try. So,
Right. Well,
very
and that definitely helps people say, you know what, maybe that person will pick up the phone and call you and say, you know what, we had the same issue. And who knows, maybe then you have a future partner, right? Because you did allow yourself to be vulnerable.
very good. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else out there? I'm monitoring the Q&A part, and I'm also monitoring the chat. So if you have a question, you could do. Okay, okay, we've got a comment, and actually, I think it's a word of encouragement from Shalonda today. It's always great to learn different perspectives of branding utilizing social media. As you point out, a percentage of success deals with timing, or it was just a good time to deliver a certain message. Thank you for presenting today. All
Oh,
right.
sure. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Well, again, thanks, Liz. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And as Liz pointed out, you can find her on LinkedIn or at lizdarosa.com. And hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.